when you're stuck on an exam question, the worst thing you can do is look at the mark scheme or a video of that specific question. So these videos could actually take weeks and weeks and weeks, and what I do is I just keep pause and then next time I'm back there. So one video might be over the course of 2 or 3 weeks. I feel that everyone in the world, regardless or if they're doing an official TEDx talk or not, or TED Talk, should do this exercise.
Hi, Miss Charlotte. How are you?
Hi, thank you, Ahyan. I'm really good today. How are you?
I'm amazing. And a bit of background on how I found you out. Basically, I was in year 12, and I just started year 12, and I was looking for resources online to study maths because Edexcel was a completely foreign thing for me because I'd done Cambridge before. I've never even seen Edexcel. So I started searching on YouTube, and then I came across your playlist, and I was like, this is amazing. So I started using it, and then I used it for pretty much everything, for PO1, PO2, and S1 as well. And a couple of days ago, I saw you on LinkedIn. I said, why not reach out? A lot of people would have used you and would have want to see a podcast with you for maybe a further insights. So I thought it would be a good idea to bring you on. So that's why I reached out, and now we're here.
Well, that's incredible. Thank you so much for watching my videos and finding them useful. In terms of my videos, I actually started them during my lessons. It actually started during COVID. This is how mindful maths came about and how I transitioned from just normal teaching to, and then everyone in the world had to go to online teaching. And at the time we were using a program, and for some reason when I was recording the videos it was just taking so long to upload, and then the students were saying the quality was really bad. So then one of my students said to me, Miss, why don't you just upload them to YouTube? It's easier for everyone then. We don't have to download anything, we can just click and watch the videos. So when I started making the videos, I was solely making them for the purpose of my class and just made a YouTube channel, and then off I went. I didn't realize the impact it would have on other students around the world in terms of them also then using it, and then before I knew it I had 1,000 subscribers, then 5,000, then 10,000, and now I'm currently just over 15,000, which I'm a little bit shocked, but I'm also really happy because the videos that I made was never intended. I never thought of myself as a YouTube creator. It was a happy accident, if that makes sense.
I've seen a recurring theme that every single teacher that uploads on YouTube, they did it solely for their students, and then other students found them. I was talking to Mr. Hassan, Hassan's math channel. He also runs a math channel for Edexcel, and he just told me that his videos were solely intended so that his students don't ask the same question over and over again. They can just go onto YouTube and just look at it. And even Sam, the ginger mathematician, his videos were purely made for his students, and then eventually other people discovered it. So it seems to be a recurring theme that teachers upload for their students, and then other students looking for help find it and find it useful as well. And I think that's just amazing.
I mean, it is amazing, and it's funny, you know, because I also used to use Mr. Hassan's maths channel for my students, find some good videos on there, point them in the right direction. I never thought to myself for 1 second that actually I would, this would be something I could get into. It was never like that. So I find that really great, actually, that everyone started off doing it for their students and then it's blossomed.
I was saying it's very interesting how it works.
Yeah, I wonder how many other teachers you'll interview and they also have the same backstory.
I'm guaranteeing you a lot of them would have the exact same story because they intend to make it for their students, but so many people are looking for help because their teachers may not be nice, they might have missed classes, or they might just not understand the topic, and they end up finding them, and then the channel just explodes over a period of time.
Yeah, there's also quite a huge demographic of students on my channel that don't go to school because they can't afford school and they can only afford the exams. So I've actually helped support numerous students, mainly from Sri Lanka, and I just think that's just because where it caught on at the time. who just pay for the exams, and then they've studied alongside, they've sent questions in by email, I've helped, I've done some group Zoom sessions as well, and then they've gone ahead and they've got scholarships at different universities around the world, which is absolutely incredible.
YouTube is such a great platform for, learning and all of that. You can literally learn everything of YouTube. This is like everything, like there's a saying that every billionaire's secret is on Google. You can easily find it whether on YouTube or Google. So you just have to search the right things and sort of, consuming a lot of entertainment content. You can maybe consume a lot of productive content and up your productivity and just become more, effective in your terms of studying, in your daily life. Do tasks that take 1 hour and 30 minutes to in basically just 15 minutes. There's a lot you can do simply by using the internet to your advantage.
Absolutely, and I completely agree with you there. Even social media, I've seen some teachers on there posting smaller reels, or on YouTube they call them shorts, don't they? And explaining questions. And I think it's just so much more accessible. And I love the way that you can go to school and you can also reach out and self-paced study yourself with YouTube and other platforms.
50 years ago, you would have had to pay full attention in class. Without, paying attention in class, it would have basically become impossible for you to understand the concept. But in today's world, you can just go home. If you don't understand something, you can search it up, and within 10 minutes, you're going to find a result that, exactly what you were looking for, and you can easily understand it without, having to constantly ask your teachers or run around people to explain it to you. So it is just the best thing ever.
Yeah, completely agree with you. It is. It just makes everything accessible. Anything I need to learn, I'm straight on YouTube, searching videos, having a look at different YouTubers, giving them a follow if I like their style of teaching. It's even for day-to-day things that aren't related to mathematics. Like recently I wanted to learn how to make ramen. So I went onto YouTube, I looked at a few videos and was like, right, okay, I'm going to choose this one, and off I went, and it's fantastic. So you have a sense of accomplishment after, when you've sought out to find what you need, you've watched a video, you've educated yourself, and then you've gone and done it yourself.
Exactly, that's how I feel about your videos as well, because they're just so perfectly structured, because you have every single subtopic in one big video rather than distributed in small videos, and you have a playlist explaining all of it. It's just the best thing ever for a student to have everything organized in one single playlist, video by video. It's just the best thing ever.
So I actually, even though in my head, I also thought this would be the best way to do it. After my YouTube channel got traction and I got 1,000 subscribers, for my birthday, one of my friends bought me a book. It was called The YouTube Formula. It's actually a really interesting book. And I was reading it, and then I was like, do you know what? Actually, I'm going to stop reading it. I'm going to download the audiobook, and then I can do two things at once. I'll drive to work and listen to it. And in there it says about how shorter videos technically are better, and I think there's like an optimum time of around 15 to 20 minutes. I'm not entirely sure, that might not be factually correct, but it's a lot shorter. I don't know if you've seen my vectors video, I think it's about 4.5 hours long. But it's because
because vectors is a long topic.
It is a long topic, and I've really tried to condense it and put the whole topic in there with examples, understanding, and also exam style questions. So I have seen other YouTube channels that shorten all of their topics. So like, for example, I have chapter 1, and then within chapter 1 I've got about 10 little topics, and I do the whole video. I just never know if I should have just done chapter 1 as a playlist with all the subtopics, or a really long video is good.
I think it depends on the student, obviously, but for me personally, I like something that one video, I don't have to search for the other video. I can just, one video, I can leave where I left it off, and I come back the next time and it's exactly at the same place. And just the feeling of completing a 2-hour video and then getting the topic done is just better than, completing a subtopic. It's just the dopamine rush that I get from completing a 2-hour video rather than just a 20-minute video. That's just the best feeling ever as well.
Okay, well that's great to hear. I'll continue with the larger videos then.
Right, now moving on. Why did you choose mathematics? People have different interests. For example, I love maths because I have a family background of completely maths. Everyone did maths. People were in engineering. They did engineering. They did maths. it's basically heavily based on maths rather than chemistry or biology. So is it a similar story for you? Why did you choose maths?
So yeah, it is a little bit of a similar story. My dad loved mathematics, and he loved teaching us tricks. I don't know if you've watched my TED talk, and in there I talk
I
about
have.
multiplying by 11. So, for example, 62 times 11 is 682, and that's because you add the 6 and the 2 and essentially squeeze it in the middle. And so, all these mathematic tricks, or when you say, "Oh, give me a number between 1 to 10, but don't tell me it. Now multiply it by 2, add 5, divide by 2, add 3," and then you get the number again, and you're like, wow. So my dad loved all of that, which then got me interested in mathematics. I also feel I was naturally good at mathematics because I had some incredible teachers growing up, and that is what inspired me to become a mathematics teacher.
That makes perfect sense. I think a teacher plays a big role in influencing like whether you like a subject or whether you move away from a subject, because a teacher can completely transform. So, for example, if you have a bad teacher in one year but a great maths teacher the next year, like your whole experience can completely change. So for me, I didn't have that amazing of a teacher in year 10, but in year 11 and year 12, I had amazing maths teacher, and I think a lot of my success in maths is dedicated to them because they never left me. They always, were ready to help. They didn't, necessarily get angry if someone didn't understand something. It's just you need the perfect teacher, and when you have the perfect teacher, the subject becomes 10 times easier than when you don't have one.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. Even when I was growing up, I found the teachers that I really liked their style. I really liked what how they taught the lesson, how they presented lessons was great, and it encouraged me to do better. However, there were some teachers, let's say, that maybe I didn't gel with quite so much in terms of their teaching style, and I would feel like, oh, not really feeling their class. There is an element now that I've gotten older. There is an element of that you are always going to have that dynamic as you grow up with people that you work with. So whether you start your own company and employ people, or whether you go and work for somebody else, there's always going to be an element of someone can do the job right, but they might not do it the way you want it or the way you like it. So it's a great time to actually start learning. Okay, maybe I'm not really connecting with this teacher, but how can I utilize this time to still be really productive and get the best out of me? So it is about
100%.
growing up, and as you grow
Yeah,
up, you're going to have these different challenges. So it's about embracing those challenges.
I completely agree. Now, I want to ask, like, what did you study in university? Was it maths or was it something else?
Yes, so in university I studied mathematics, just pure mathematics. We did have a few modules in there. So I had some stats modules every year, also decision. It's called graph theory, but I'm not sure. Are you taking decision D1 this year or
No,
M1?
I'm taking mechanics. I'm taking
Mechanics, yeah.
mechanics.
So you've seen decision as also another element. They have taken that out of the GCSE
A
in the
level syllabus?
UK. In the
Oh,
UK,
okay.
however, if you did further maths, you can include that. And then in the international GCSE, it's still one of the modules that you can pick.
Right. And did you start teaching immediately after university, or did you do something else before that as well?
So as soon as I finished my 3-year mathematics degree, I then went on and did a PGCE. So that's like your teacher training certificate within mathematics. So you also
Right.
do a master's alongside it, as well as a work placement. And then as soon as I finished that, straight to teaching.
So have you been teaching A levels from the start, or did you start off with perhaps GCSE or even lower? Key stage 3, I think, like year
So
6,
I
year
was
7.
very fortunate. I was teaching A levels from my teacher training. I've always been very
Oh, really?
fond,
From the start?
yeah, from the start. I just love the subject, and one of my favorite teachers was my A level teacher. My GCSE teacher was a great teacher. However, I didn't feel inspired. And then when I went and did my A levels, I was like, wow, like this is
So did
incredible.
you teach in the UK? So did you teach in the
Yes,
UK
so
first,
taught
or
in the
did you?
UK as well as in Dubai for the last 10 years.
How long for the last 10 years?
So
Wow. I
eight
thought
to
it would have
nine
been
years in
fairly
Dubai.
recently.
No, so I mean that's very kind of you. I'm a lot older than I look.
And how has teaching A levels gone so far?
I love teaching A levels because of a few reasons. Number one, the class sizes are smaller. I don't know if
Or
you
yeah,
noticed,
that's
but
something you have seen.
yeah, class sizes are smaller, and everybody who takes A level mathematics wants to. It's optional. You don't have to take
Yeah,
A level
because yeah,
mathematics.
exactly. Those who are taking A level maths, it's because they want to take it. If they
Yeah,
weren't
they want
good
to.
or they didn't enjoy it, they wouldn't have taken it.
Absolutely. So then you also have a different barrier with students because they want to be there or they need to be there. They might not want to take A level mathematics, but if they want to be a doctor, they need to have A level mathematics to get into university. Okay, so there's that element of I want or I need. And then the third thing is that students are at that age where they're like 16, turning 17, and it's
Hmm.
such a wonderful age because you're essentially getting ready to become mini adults.
Right, yeah.
So,
Young adults.
yes, you're happy exploring. You're happy solving problems, critical thinking. And the way I like to teach, which unfortunately you don't get to see on my YouTube channel, however, is I like everyone stood up. I like everyone at the boards. I put questions on the boards and people are stood up and writing with a whiteboard
That's
pen.
what my teachers do as well. They basically leave a question and they call like one of us to go come to the board and solve it so that the whole class can see, and then we take turns doing it.
So it's similar, however, everybody is at the boards. So
Everybody
I'll,
at the same time.
yeah, I'll send you pictures of my classroom. So one of my classroom has whiteboards along one side of the wall, and all of the other walls are windows. So they just
Oh,
write on the
okay.
windows. So you have a
In the
whiteboard
window over there.
marker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can write on the window, you can write on the walls, you can write on the tables, as long as you're using a whiteboard marker. Even if you wanted to write
Right.
on the floor, that would also be okay. So it's
And
about getting out of your comfort zone.
have you felt like doing that and making it more interactive has improved their grades a bit more, or like have you seen any improvement using that technique?
Absolutely. There's been a huge improvement, not just in grades, but in confidence. I found that some students, when they get to A levels, they decide that they want their notebooks to be completely perfect. They get their notebooks at the beginning of
Yeah.
the year. They write everything in. Have you seen that trend where people use the highlighters over the words as well?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
it
Yes.
looks beautiful. And then they want their examples really nice, and all the questions they do, they want really nice, which is fantastic. But then there's that fear of making a mistake.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but like the best students, like the students who get the highest grades, have the worst looking notebooks because they don't really care about the aesthetics, but rather they just care about like what work they're getting done. So they're more focused on like how much work can I get done rather than how pretty can I make my work look. Is that a bit true?
I haven't seen a correlation in that, no. So I had
No,
two
because
students a few years ago. One of them, very messy handwriting. The other one, very neat, lots of colours. Both of them got 100 UMS.
okay, so then it may not have it because from what I've seen is that the more you try to make it look pretty, the more it wastes your time essentially, and then eventually you try to look at more aesthetic than you actually study. So that was my logic behind it, but maybe I'm wrong.
I also think as well there is an element, some people are very fast at making things look pretty. So if you're fast at doing
That
that
could
and
be
you're not
true.
wasting time, or they choose to study differently, where they want to make all of their notes really nice in class, and then you don't know, they go home and they might practice for 3 hours.
That's okay. So that it's all down
Yeah,
to the individual and how they study.
all down to the individual. However, I found that removing the books and you have a whiteboard pen which you can erase, we get through a lot quicker work. We get through a lot of
It's
questions.
teamwork, right? That's what, because it's
It,
teamwork.
even if it's not just teamwork, even if people have to go do it on their own and you put a timer on the board, it's just about it's okay to make mistakes. And that is where you learn more in mathematics, when you make mistakes and you realize, why did I make that mistake? How does that
That's
affect the answer?
yeah. That's something I've seen 100%. Mistakes are what allow you to grow and become better.
Absolutely, absolutely, they do. And and it's about having little jokes as well. Like with some of my students, I put up a wall and I put black lines along it and made it look like, like you were in jail and you were getting your photo taken.
I
And
think that is something very, very important. Like students should have fun as well. It's not all like just studying. An element of fun would make them look forward to your classes and then encourage them to do better in your classes because the more they do better, the more the fun.
absolutely agree, because especially in Pure One, what do you think the biggest mistake in Pure One is where students lose marks?
You put me in the spot here, but I think silly mistakes is the biggest.
Aside from silly mistakes, think about the content in Pure One. What mistake do you think people forget? Or there is something that a lot of students forget to do.
Really, I'm baffled right now. Use the correct stationery because one of my friends did that, and he
Oh, the
lost a lot
station.
of marks
No,
because of that.
I've not actually seen that. We're not allowed in the exam hall when they go in for the actual exam. So all the
Oh,
examiners and invigilators would then sort that out. However, no. So the biggest mistake is forgetting to write plus C when you integrate.
oh yeah, my teachers like were after me. Please write plus C. Like it
Yeah,
is
plus
the
C,
constant of
plus C,
integration is
plus
the
C.
most important thing ever.
Absolutely. So if my students ever forgot it, they had to go stand in mathematical jail. They had to stand there with a sign saying, "I will remember plus C."
That's that the element of fun can be very, very helpful for students as well. So I think that
Yeah.
is something every teacher should be doing.
Absolutely. And I feel that if you really enjoy your job and you love what you're doing, you're going to find ways to make it fun for the students. Even there are some
100%.
incredible resources out there, and you don't just have to practice, practice, practice. I am actually going to start putting some fun resources on my YouTube channel and explain how to do them for those students that don't go to school that can also then enjoy having a bit of fun and saying, oh, okay, it's not just about practicing the questions all the time. You can have like mix and match. When you're solving, when you're doing trigonometric proof, there's a lovely resource. I can't remember
Yeah.
who made it, but I will. I'll let you know, and then we can credit them. And then it has the trigonometric proof, but each line is jumbled up, and then you just cut them out and then put them in the right place. Even little interactive questions like
You
this
know,
can really help.
yeah, that's very interesting, and I'm looking forward to that on your channel as well.
Yes, yeah. I'll put some in for
Uh,
Pure Free for sure, because you're studying that now, aren't you?
yeah, PO3 and PO4. Are
Yeah.
you gonna do M1? This is just for me. Are you gonna make videos on M1 or do you not
So
teach that?
everyone keeps asking. Unfortunately, I'm not teaching M1. However,
Right.
I am I might just make the videos myself.
How?
So I don't know if you noticed, but all my videos are actually recorded in class.
Yeah, I can hear the students in the background.
Yeah, so how the videos are recorded, so some of these videos are recorded over 2, 3 weeks. So
And they're
how I
compiled
teach
together
is that
then.
so I have a whiteboard behind me, and then I have my iPad and my pen, and I'm writing, walking around the room, writing, and I have one AirPod in. And if I'm explaining, and then what we would do, then I would pause the recording, when then either sometimes we have questions, or if we're then doing a physical activity, or we're doing Q&A. So these videos could actually take weeks and weeks and weeks. And what I do is I just keep pause, and then next time I'm back there. So one video might be over the course of 2 or 3 weeks.
That's very
And in a
interesting because I
lesson,
had that written down in my list of questions as well.
yeah.
That how do you record videos? How long does it take to record videos? So you've just answered a question I was about to ask in the future as well.
Okay, well that's fantastic. So that is literally how it works. So I just pause, and then I might come back to it in 10 minutes during a lesson, and then I click record again. What is
That's
annoying is
interesting.
sometimes I forget to record. So when that happens,
Oh,
I have to go back and record it at home, which is fine, it happens. And then I upload it
but it
onto
is a bit time consuming.
It is a little bit time consuming. However, the videos are there now, and I will never update those videos. They're there in their chapters, and then what I'll
Yeah.
do is I'll move on to different topics or different modules, like maybe S2, M1,
Right. Another thing I was really interested about, how did you get the opportunity to do the TED Talk? Because TED Talks are something that I want to do in the future, are definitely on my bucket list. And if my school gives the opportunity this year, then I'm 100% going to do it. But how did you exactly do it, and how did you decide the topic for it?
So I was really fortunate. I moved schools, still within the same educational company, just to a different school. And within that school, we had a head innovation lead. And he had been organising the TEDx talks for over, I feel like it was about 8 years. I mean, it could have been longer.
Wow.
Yeah. And then he put out an application form. You had to fill in the application form and you had to pitch your idea and then go and have a conversation and do a 2-minute presentation just to show that you'd be confident speaking on a stage. So then I passed the
Okay.
interview process, and then I
Hmm.
had 6 months to prepare for my TED Talk. Now, I always
Was
knew
it nerve-wracking?
it was, yeah, it was a bit nerve-wracking actually, because I started writing what I wanted to talk about, and it was always going to be about mathematics and being mindful,
Hmm.
because I feel that there are some students out there who don't like mathematics, who struggle with
No,
mathematics.
there's a bigger majority than that.
Yeah, and it's real shame actually, because I think with a little bit of one-to-one and some discussion, that mindset can be completely shifted if they
100%.
wanted. You know, it can always be shifted. Your mindset can always shift to whatever you want. And if you want to be good at
Yes.
mathematics, you can be. You just need a little bit of support, whether that be identifying any foundational gaps or understanding how you can become a better critical thinker, problem solver, and going along that route. However, sorry, going back to the talk. So I started writing like I would essentially an essay.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've ever tried to read an essay, but you wouldn't read an
I have.
essay
Yeah.
how you'd present a talk. So
100. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because it gets boring,
yeah,
like the way you read it.
so it was a huge it was a huge process. So I feel that everyone in the world, regardless or if they're doing an official TEDx talk or not, or TED talk, should do this exercise. They should find a topic that
Of
they're
public
passionate
speaking.
about, and then they should rehearse 12 minutes content of public speaking. It was a phenomenal journey for me, and I'm so happy that I got the opportunity to do that.
So how was the overall experience, and did you get some benefits that you think that you got from it?
Absolutely. The overall experience was incredible. The lead up to it, that actually fine tuning what you're passionate about and condensing that into 12 minutes so that people can understand what you're talking about, as well as how you can support them, I think is one part. And then the other part is actually getting ready, practicing, and then going on stage and actually doing it live. And then afterwards, you know what you were saying earlier about the dopamine rush, is that sense of
Yeah.
accomplishment of wow, I've
That I did this.
yeah,
I
I've done
I
this, I've
accomplished
achieved
this.
something. Absolutely. So for me, what I've got out of this was I had a huge accomplishment, and that's been incredible. So for me,
And that's the best thing that you can do for yourself.
absolutely, I've taken on a challenge. It was a 6 month journey from starting the application to then saying, yes, you're going to be doing a talk, to writing my talk, rephrasing it, making my slides for my prompts. And then, you know, I don't know, you can see this here. Then I actually ended up creating a quote.
Oh,
So
okay.
I did my talk on what mathematical mindfulness was, and I Googled what is mathematical mindfulness, and there isn't such a thing. So then I was like, okay, well, I know what it is, and now I have to put this into words, this definition that I
Right.
made up essentially. However, I feel that it was needed because I use this with my students all the time. I always say to them, what do you know, and what do you know you don't know? So they always say, when they're struggling with a question and it's like, oh, I don't know how to do this question. And I'm like, okay, but what
Yeah.
do you know how to do? And it's like, right, well, I know how to do X, Y, and Z. Perfect. Okay, what don't you know that you need to know? And then they're like, okay, I know I need to do this, but this is the part I don't know. And it's like, okay, you're actually now being mathematically mindful.
Mindful, because you're acknowledging that I know this, but I do not know this, so I have to improve on this.
Yeah, and not even improve on it. You can say, like, I don't know this, and to be able to get to this answer, actually, I need to then use, for example, Pythagoras and something else.
Hmm.
So then this is
That's
where it came from. It's an awareness of what you know, and what you don't know in order to progress.
that's a very lovely quote.
Thank you, thank you. And again, that was something that came out of this whole journey. And then aside from the self-accomplishments, I've also done some public speaking. I've gone into certain schools and done some workshops. I've had a few people on LinkedIn ask me to even go to workplaces. I've actually got into workplaces, and not just for students, just for the workforce, in terms of becoming better critical thinkers. How to
I
problem
think
solve.
like doing something like that, like a big public speaking, especially for TEDx, it allows you to go into other areas as well. So you've done that, you're like, oh, I've done this, I can literally do anything else. And that allows you to explore other opportunities and get out there and put yourself to the world.
Absolutely, and it gives you that sense of confidence as well. It's like, oh,
100%.
I've achieved this, I can do this, I do know what I'm talking about. So that that's also really, really good. And in terms of you wanting to do that, they do have some in Dubai where you can have a look at the TEDx talks in Dubai, and then have a look at the institutions that run them, and drop them an email and say, hey, I would really love to do a TEDx talk. This is what I'd love to do it about. Here's a video of me talking for 2 minutes briefly on this subject. How do I apply?
Right. My school also does it, and a couple of my fellow classmates and schoolmates have been on the official TEDx channel. So I'm going to see if there's an opportunity in my school coming up. Otherwise, if there's not, then I'm going to apply somewhere else. But it's just something that I want to achieve, that I want to be able to say that, oh, I've appeared on TEDx and I've talked about this, especially for from my niche, the thing my YouTube channel is about as well. I can talk about how you should be studying for your exams, how you can be more productive while you're studying and stuff like that. I have a lot of topics that I can talk about that I've been exploring and, researching about for the longest of time.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. And I would start rehearsing. Start getting this together, because you will have the opportunity to do it.
I'm going to search up how to do it. This is just giving me an extra boost to go ahead and search and apply for it.
Well, that's fantastic. And if you ever need any support, or, I use this really cool template to structure my talk, let me know.
100%, I'll let you know. Now, we've already talked about this, but I think since it's in my notes list, I'm going to talk about it. Your channel obviously started just from making videos for your students, or was there just from that?
It was just from that.
And since you start uploading, have you noticed, have you learned something from YouTube's alone? Is there something that you've learned or you may have not known before you started doing YouTube that you do know now and you're thankful for it?
Yeah, so there's a few things I've learned from the YouTube channel. So number one, thumbnails are really important. So
they're very important,
yeah.
They can, no matter how important your video is, no one's gonna click it if you don't have a important thumbnail.
Absolutely. I've actually changed my thumbnails 3 times. So
there's a new feature now where you can upload 3 different thumbnails, and YouTube's gonna test all 3 of them out, and it's gonna keep the best the one that people click on the most.
Oh, okay. Well, okay, I might try that out.
So you can upload 3 different thumbnails.
3 different thumbnails, right? I'll give that a go. However, I've changed my branding a few times, because, as I said, when I first did it, I don't know if you noticed, my banner.
Yeah.
Is like the mindful math and the writing. That was actually what some students did on my blackboard at the back. I had, like, the whole
Oh,
wall is painted in blackboard in one of my previous classrooms, and then that was all chalk. And then I just got my iPad and drew it essentially in I think it
that's
was
very nice.
Procreate.
So your
Yeah.
students have basically they have a mark left on your YouTube channel as well.
Absolutely, yeah. They were the ones who instigated it, and then yeah, they have a mark. So it's really important to me that. And then I use that as the basis of quite a lot of my thumbnails. And then the other thing that's important is the description. People aren't going to
Really?
find
I've
your
not
videos. So
really.
timestamps are important
Mhm.
because when you're searching on Google, whatever the title of your timestamp is,
Oh
essentially comes
yeah.
at like
If you like when
another.
I want to like if I have a problem and I want to search it, it shows up on Google and it shows me that specific timestamp.
Yeah, so essentially it comes up like another title that you're searching for. So that's really
Yeah.
important, is timestamps.
Oh,
I
that's
haven't
very
managed to
interesting.
do all my videos yet. I am doing it slowly. Do you know anything about YouTube?
It's like you have to stay patient. If like you're taking this as something full time, you cannot like be like you cannot expect results in your first week of uploading. You have to be consistent, and over a period of time, you're gonna some of your videos might not you feel like you've done amazing work on them, but they might not take off. But then over time, they might shoot up. This happened to me recently. I made a video on how to get an A star in A level chemistry, and it did poor for the first week, and then all of a sudden it shot up. I think it was 90 views in the first week, and 1 week later it's on I think 1,000 views now. So it's just about patience and consistency, and you will see the results eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was the other thing about YouTube is I find that your titles matter. So my best performing videos are actually the ones where people think they're cheating. So I don't know if you've seen, I have a few videos, like all of Pure One in 15 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
This is very interesting because Sam, the ginger mathematician, he said my most popular video is the one I made Edexcel in, like, when he combines the whole syllabus into a couple of minutes video.
yeah.
He says those are the one that get the most views. And whenever he's starting a new syllabus or a new exam board, he starts off with like all in one video.
Yeah, so that all in one video, and that's because of two things. Number one, people want to study for less time. So this is now
Okay,
your
that's true. That
marketing,
like
right?
before their exam, they can use it as a.
Yeah, so I created those videos for a refresher, assuming you've done the whole course for before the exam.
Hmm.
That's my purpose of the videos. However, for the purpose of the title, the whole of Pure One in 15 minutes was more of a marketing technique that was used from that book I was telling you about earlier.
Oh, really? Okay, so it was from
Yeah.
the book.
Yeah, so I wanted to test a few of their exact theories because, as a mathematician as well, it's always nice to try trial and error, try a few different things, and that is what I found. So even though students going to watch it and say, "Oh, this isn't the whole of Pure One," of course it's not. No one's going to do the whole of Pure One in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
However, if you're looking for a refresher before an exam, this is all of Pure One in 15 minutes.
For me, the way I think of videos is like, if like I was in GCSEs or if I was doing an A levels, what would be something that I would definitely click on, or like perhaps like I would want to like click on this video and learn something new, and from my past experiences, something that I've dealt with before, what can be something that I can help others like who are doing their GCSEs or A levels to not make the same mistakes as me, and that is my main goal for this channel. That don't let others make the same mistakes that I made, and they can do much better.
Absolutely. And I think that's fantastic. And what you're doing here, and this is how successful people are successful. If you do something you love and you're passionate about, you will be successful because you're not doing
It's
it.
just a matter of consistency.
Absolutely. It is consistency, but also you've got to be passionate about what you're doing. And you do have passion to help students avoid those mistakes. If you're not passionate about
100%.
it, you're not going to really get anywhere because no matter how much consistency you have, people are going to see that you're not authentic.
Exactly. That is something very important. You have to be authentic to your viewers. You cannot just make a video when you don't feel like it. You have to feel like you want to do this, because the thing is, you can tell yourself that, oh, I don't want to do this, but I'm doing as like a business or something like that. But
Yeah,
eventually, if this is not your hobby, month or 2 months or 3 months later, you're gonna leave it because you're not enjoying it. Do something that you're enjoying as well.
absolutely, completely agree with you.
And you said your videos took how long on average to make? Because there are, let's say, the vectors for our video. How long did that take you to make?
I feel that that would have taken about 4 weeks to make.
4 weeks.
Yeah. So just imagine. So I have 4 hours a week. I was teaching Pure Four, and within
Four
each
hours a
of those,
week.
yeah, and within each of those lessons, I'd probably record for 20 minutes in each of those lessons.
It doesn't even feel like anything's been cut off. It just looks like it's going naturally.
Yeah, but also it's faceless. All my videos are faceless because I'm
Yeah,
just,
but then you have your face in the thumbnail.
yes. However, if I did have my face on the videos, you would see that this would be over a period of time because I
Because the different
different
background
outfits,
changes,
different
the outfit
hairstyle,
changes. Yeah,
yeah, different
exactly.
lighting, whether it's, morning, evening. Yeah, so
But those videos for me are like probably the best way to study, because the way I do it is I use your videos, I do it as you're doing it. I also do it. When you tell your students to pause and do this, I stop the video and I attempt the question, and then
yeah.
I check whether I've done it correctly. And then after I've completed each topic, then I go on to do past paper questions. And for past paper questions, you do have past paper videos as well, but I use someone else, for Mr. Hassan from past paper. I use you to understand, because the way you explain the topic is probably the best I've found on YouTube.
So I feel like there is a reason for this though.
What's the
So
reason?
the reason is when I first started uploading my recorded videos to YouTube, I then decided I was going to do a GCSE series as well. So after I'd
Right.
finished work, I'd be sat at home and I'd be like, right, okay, I'm going to do a GCSE paper and do the topics and record myself. And what I found was that actually me explaining something to myself on a whiteboard was not as
Hmm.
effective as to me explaining in class because I get the
It to
feedback.
a student, yeah.
So I feel like that
Right.
is why my A level videos, in terms of explanation, are better. Because imagine if I was teaching you now, and I say
Hmm.
something, and your eyebrows move, and you're like, and then to me,
Okay, so you can like go off the reaction of
I go
students.
off the yeah, I go off the reaction. So I find it's way easier to teach someone and record it whilst you're teaching than it is to record it on your own because you're not getting any feedback from people.
But I would counter that you can get feedback in the comments. But then again, you don't have that live feedback thing.
Yeah, of
And I
course you
think
can get
that's very
feedback in the
important.
comments. I noticed one of my GCSE videos, I'd recorded some of it at home, and I was explaining a histogram question. One of the commenters was like, I don't get it. And then when I rewatched the video, the histogram part, and I was counting squares. But what happened was I wasn't using the lightsaber to show I was counting.
Oh,
So
okay, makes
I was
sense.
counting squares with my hand, well, my
But
finger,
you couldn't see it.
but no one can see that. So
Right, makes
there's
sense.
certain elements where you have to remember that people are only seeing what is on the screen,
Yeah.
not what you're physically doing.
Yeah. You've not uploaded in a year as well. What are your future plans for the channel?
So I haven't uploaded in a year because I have been doing some work on the background and I took a little bit of time out and I decided
Hmm.
I'm in the middle of launching some online courses.
Oh, really? For maths, A
Yeah,
level maths, or what?
mathematics, for becoming more mindful, how important it is to rehearse and practice a TEDx talk as well, because I feel that after being through one, even if you don't get the opportunity right now to do it, I feel that as an A level student, you should be rehearsing this because this is also something that would look really good on your college applications, as well as that
100%.
sense of accomplishment. And then yeah, so I've been doing this in the background, and then YouTube, there will be more coming. Unfortunately, I do have quite a few videos ready to post from
Hmm.
the exams. so more past papers, but you can't actually
Right.
post them if they're not unlocked.
You get copyright strike, right?
Yes, you do. And I know there are some YouTubers that still post them, but
Yeah.
I don't want to break any rules.
But
And
there's smaller YouTubers, so they can get their account, like they can put their account at risk. But for you, you have like what 16,000, I think.
yeah,
So, so if you get three strike, it's all done for. So you cannot really
absolutely.
take
And
that
that's
risk.
not something I want to do because some of the videos on there are amazing, as you said, for A-level students.
Yeah, for a lot of students, I think I know like almost 70% of my class used at least some of your videos at one point during year 12 to understand the topic or to, for a past paper. So you may not realize it, but there's a lot of people that watch to help themselves. And I think that's just amazing because a lot of people from all over the world watching one single video to understand the same thing.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for that. I mean, that is why they're there. They're there for the
Yeah.
students to use however they need, and it's great alongside teaching.
Also, have you always taught Edexcel? And if you've always taught Edexcel, have you noticed some difference between Cambridge, Edexcel, Oxford?
So I have always taught Edexcel, whether that be the international or the normal spec. In terms of Edexcel AQA Cambridge, I would say there is practically like a 90% overlap in topics.
Similarity?
Yes.
Okay.
And then there are just the way that questions are presented sometimes can be slightly different. So we'd have to look at a few examples and maybe we could pull them up and
Sure.
we'll have a look, or maybe we could do this in another video if you want, but like we can have a
Yeah,
look
I'm
at
down.
the same style question but from all the different exam boards. So it's more about understanding the foundations. If you've got your foundations in mathematics, it really shouldn't matter which exam board you go with. The other thing to note with different exam boards is obviously, I'm not sure if you know this, but I think it was about 2018 Edexcel changed. So before you used to have C1, C2, Core 1,
Yes.
Core 2,
Core 1, Core 2, yes.
and Core 3, Core 4. So it would be one big exam at the end of each year. Whereas now you've got
Our teachers
modular.
recommended us to do it for extra practice.
Yeah, they're fantastic for extra practice. Really good. Especially the past papers that have the answer only.
Going from Cambridge in IGCSE to Edexcel in A levels, it was such a culture shock, if you want to say that, because
Okay.
Cambridge gives you like the amount of space that you need to do your questions, but when you come to Edexcel, the whole page, like you have 3-4 pages to do a 2-mark question. So it was just like, what am I doing here? Because at first you're not used to that big of a space to do your questions.
Yeah.
So a 2-mark question, 2 pages, I'm like, how long is the working for this? And then when you start doing past papers, you realize, oh, it's just 2 lines. They just give you a lot of space because they feel like it.
Yeah, so you had like a format shock of how the
Yeah,
exams
exactly.
were presented. Yeah. And that happens. However, the mathematics, as I said, is relatively similar.
The syllabus is relatively similar.
Yes, of course. Because if you think you can't have something completely different because people applying for university to do a mathematics degree, whether they did Cambridge or Edexcel, it should be relatively similar.
Do you know the most common things that students struggle with when it comes to like A-level maths? Like, what are the most recurring mistakes that students make, or the most recurring things that they struggle with when it comes to A-level maths?
So there are two things. Number one, especially I found this more in Dubai than I did in the UK.
Hmm.
If you do the IGCSE in Dubai, you have calculator papers for paper 1 and 2.
Yes. They're changing it now, though.
Yes, but you can still do the GCSE in Dubai, and it's 1 non-calculator, 2 calculator.
Hmm.
So there are so many students that struggle with
They struggle with working it out. Ah, okay.
mental
That was a
mathematics.
big problem for me. But then my dad said, stop using a calculator for normal basic calculations and start using your brain. And I was like, okay, makes sense. And then I started it, and then I got the hang of doing it with my hand rather than using a calculator for everything.
Yeah, and I don't think you should be so reliant on calculators because then sometimes that stops your thought process. And it's really
You
important.
stop critical thinking.
yeah, you don't just, yeah, you stop critical thinking, and you then start become dependent on something that you don't need to be dependent on.
Right, exactly. And if something, especially in stuff like that, like a lot of students made this mistake that I know in A levels, is that they start using calculators for quadratic formulas. And even though in the paper it explicitly says show all of your working, so that means includes the factorization, but students just leave it, so they lose a lot of marks just because they were a bit lazy, or they wanted to save a bit time by using it directly on their calculator.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's okay to double check, because I understand when you're in the exam and you're in that
Yeah.
moment, sometimes your mind goes blank. Well, that's fine. Double check it on the calculator. That's okay. That's what
Funnily
it's
enough,
there for.
that's what happened to me as well. I left this question and I was running out of time,
Yeah.
and I knew I had to show the whole working, but instead of showing the whole working, I just put it in my calculator because, like, I think there was 2 minutes left, so I was like, I cannot be asked doing the whole working here, so I just put it in my calculator. I put the answer, and somehow I still got it correct. So I'm very thankful for Edexcel for not noticing it.
Well, that is good. Sometimes, though, in terms of the whole working, I mean, if you're factorizing a quadratic, and you're
Hmm.
solving it, you can just put the brackets. It's not that
Yeah,
much.
that's why I've reversed it. So you go
Yeah.
like you get the roots -3 and 2. Let's say you can just put it x plus 3 and x minus 2. But even then, they still realize because they cannot see like the factors that you made.
You don't have to write the factors that you've done if it's a simple quadratic like that.
Really? No, but for longer questions, I think like 5 marks or something like that.
It depends what the 5 marks are for. It depends. I mean, if
Okay.
you're going into P2, P3, it's probably not going to be an emphasis on the
Hmm.
mark for
Yeah.
factorizing. And
No, I was talking about P1 in
factors.
this
Yeah,
scenario.
in P1, yeah, 100%. You really should show all your working. In terms of the factors, though, if you did have like x squared plus 8x plus 15, and you
Hmm.
factorize that, and you had x plus 5 and x plus 3, that should be that's enough working. You don't need to write that 15
Right.
is 3 times 5 and 1 times 15.
What is the best thing a student can do for themselves to achieve a very high grade? So like, I'm talking about 195 plus UMS in A level maths. Like, what's the best thing they can do for themselves aside past paper? Because I think past papers is probably the key to success for anyone doing A levels. Aside from past papers, what's the best thing they can do?
Problem solving.
Example.
Getting used to having questions at a higher level that is not necessarily related to the exam board. So
Are
having
you
a wide
familiar with Solomon papers?
yes.
So stuff like that, right?
Yes, sometimes the Solomon papers are good. Even I can't think off the top of my head right now. There is a website that I use that has some really fantastic problems on. I can
Is
send
it
you.
physics maths tutor?
No, it's no, I can't remember what the website is called.
Relatively unknown website.
Relatively unknown, maybe more known to teachers than to students.
Yeah. I'll leave it if you send me the link afterwards. I'll leave it on the screen right now or in the description below.
And then so if you wanted to get an 100 UMS in
Hmm.
P3 and P4, I suggest you start tutoring on the side.
Tutoring on the side.
Yeah.
So
So helping your
you start
classmates.
teaching, like.
Yeah, you start
Ah,
teaching.
okay.
Because the only way you can fully understand something is if you start teaching
If you're
it.
able to understand it, there's something called I want to talk about this before as well. There's something called the Feynman technique. I'm not sure if you're aware of it. The Feynman technique is basically, I've mentioned this in my videos before as well. It's a technique created by this psychologist or something like that called Feynman. He said basically, if you think you've understood a topic or a concept, you can get like a toddler or a pet, especially a pet. He said like a dog or a cat, and you should be able to explain it clearly to them that what you learned, like the sentence you just read, you can summarize it and explain it to them that the dog's hair, for example, and you can tell them, okay, so the quadratic formula works like this. This is the root you get. This is how intersection works. The y-intercept. You can explain it to someone clearly. That's the Feynman technique.
Yeah, so it's not just about being clear, but also simple.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that's very important as well.
yeah, so I'm sure Einstein said something similar too. if you fully understand something, have a look at Albert
Hmm.
Einstein. I don't remember the quote off the top of my head. So, teaching someone, so we used to get groups where
Yeah.
I would teach some students and then they would have to go off and teach the other groups.
Oh, that I think my a couple of my teachers did that, but a long time ago, not recently.
Yeah, so you'd have like a focus group at the front that you teach them all a
Yeah.
concept and then they'd all go off to their tables and teach the
We used to
concept.
be in sets. I'm pretty sure this is in the UK as well. We used to be in set one, set two, set three. So the set one students, which were the geniuses essentially, had to go and teach the set three some stuff that they have learned, and I think that just allowed for better teamwork and all of that as well.
Absolutely, it incorporates so many things. However, you studying up with someone in your class and teaching them something that maybe they're struggling with, then
Yeah.
that's, if you want to go out there, start getting outside of your comfort zone and teaching people.
Oh, for sure. And what are the best study techniques when it comes to maths, though? Like, because for chemistry, I think flashcards, spaced repetition, all of that for chemistry is essential. But for maths, what do you think is the best study technique? Just
So,
questions?
not just questions. I feel that problem solving. So, I would. Okay. So, first of all, you have to make sure you understand the foundations of the topic,
Right.
and then it's an exposing yourself to an array of different questions in difficulty. So, start like easy,
Right.
medium, hard.
Oh yeah, I made a video on how to get an A star in A level maths, and I mentioned this in the Edexcel textbook. I love the Edexcel textbook for maths because
Yeah.
they have questions from each level of difficulty. So I say that start off easy. If you find easy very easy, then skip to medium, and then try the past paper questions because it doesn't get harder than past paper questions. And if you can get all of them in terms of difficulty, then you've successfully completed the topic and you know what you're doing.
Absolutely. Actually, though, sometimes some of the textbook challenge questions can be harder than the past paper questions.
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot.
Yeah, so they're also like the challenge ones are good to do. And then work in groups, have fun. So you want to get that A star. You don't have to
don't have
fix
too
it.
much fun because you can get distracted as well.
You can get distracted. However, learning is about having fun and laughter and even racing with your friends to do a question, doing a question together, having all the fun. However, don't spend time doing the same questions
For a long period of
over
time.
and over.
Yeah,
You have a set of easy questions. If you can do the hardest one of the easiest question, go, move on.
then move on.
Yeah, you have to. It's not just
Also,
about who can work
yeah,
the hardest. It's about working smart.
yeah. Also, I noticed that your year 13 videos are much, much longer than year 12 videos. Is there a reason for that? That was just something I was personally curious about. The year 13 videos are so long compared to year 12.
Yeah, so they are a lot longer. There is a lot of new content. So in P1, I think the only new thing from GCSE is radians and integration.
Yeah, and
And
integrate, and they're basically child level because they're
yeah,
so easy as well.
and then
And
in
I would argue that radiance is not really a new thing because the formula, you're applying the same formula as you were doing in perimeter. It's just the formulas that are different, but the concept is exactly the same as IGCSE.
yeah, it's just a different form, isn't it? Instead of in degrees, you're
Yeah.
in radians. In terms of the conceptual understanding, it's very similar. So, and then in P2, um, what's new in P2?
Logs
Logs, which
and
again,
trigonometry.
and some trigonometric functions. However, that's still basically also it's like substitution.
Oh yeah, and sequences and series. Sequences and series. How am I forgetting the hardest one?
So sequences and series. So in the IGCSE Edexcel, you do sequences. You don't do
Yeah,
geometric. But you
Even in Cambridge we did, but like in when it comes to A levels, it's a much higher level. So I do
yeah,
not expect it to be that high of a level.
yeah. It does. Again, though, the foundations of that is pretty much simultaneous equations and rearranging.
Yeah. So the reason your 13 videos are longer is because you're being introduced to newer things that you've not learned previously ever before. Is that the reason?
Newer topics and also they're longer, what you'll notice is, for example, in some of the trigonometric videos, is that you have to build on your P1 and P2 knowledge as well as your GCSE knowledge.
Oh,
So when you're
oh,
doing a
good lord.
question, you've got all of that knowledge crammed into one question, and then like your P3 new knowledge.
Oh, it just seems hard by the definition of it.
Well, I mean, you've just done chapter one. Chapter one's a relatively short video.
Yeah. Yeah, I've completed it today. I
Yeah.
completed in one sitting.
Functions
Now,
and
what's the second
graphs as
topic?
well. There was a lot of functions and graphs
Yeah.
in P3. I had to go back when I did that video and recap some
Hmm.
GCSE content.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and the same with vectors. So when you do vectors, people haven't done vectors since GCSE, and actually some students never did vectors at all because you don't need to learn vectors at GCSE
Hmm.
to get a grade 9.
Yeah.
And
Vectors are, I found them to be a bit hard. So, and a 4 hour video points to them being hard as well.
well, there's actually more. That vectors 4.5 hour video is the P4 video, and then I also did a recap of vectors, and I think that's an
Oh,
hour and
really?
a half. So technically, this could be a 6 hour video,
Oh, God.
all in the same
It
place.
looks like I have to sit, like, I think I can complete over the course of a week if I do an hour a week.
Yeah, and that'll help with mechanics as well. You said you're doing M1 this year.
Yeah, I'm doing M1.
Yeah, there's a
Oh,
lot.
oh yeah, vectors is in M1 as well. I forgot.
Yeah, so it will be a crossover. It will work beautifully.
Yeah. And how important do you think your videos are to your students or students from all around the world? We find it helpful, but how important do you think your videos are?
From some of the messages and emails I get, I feel that they make a really great impact on some students' lives.
Did you get a lot of emails and messages?
Yes, I do. I get a lot of personal emails just thanking me and saying,
That's very
you know,
nice.
it is really nice and it warms my heart. So that's
And
why.
as a teacher, it must be the best feeling, that you've done something to help someone else. It just, every time you see a message, it just sparks a happiness in your heart.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you just think, wow, someone's taken the time to watch the video and it's actually helping them. As I said at the beginning, though, making this YouTube channel was for my students who were in front of me. I didn't
Yeah.
quite realize that this would then go internationally and actually students from everywhere watch them, which, is fantastic. So I just think it's really nice that I'm still able to help students, even though some of the videos are 3 years old now.
Yeah, but there's the syllabus hasn't been updated, so it's working perfectly as well.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for students who are retaking their exams? So a lot of students, perhaps the PO2 paper was extremely hard this year, and a lot of students did not get the results they want. Do you have any tips for them retaking? I'm not retaking, but I'm retaking another subject because similar things happened as well. So what advice do you have for students who are retaking, particularly retaking maths?
So if you are retaking a subject, it is a case of doing the past papers. What you find though is they normally have to retake because if you were really good at GCSE, then P1 isn't really that much of a step up.
Yeah.
But P2 can be a step up. So normally what's happened is even though the P2 paper, I had a look at it myself, it's difficult, yes. However, what happens is students wouldn't have prepared like they would for P1 because they were very confident, so they didn't prepare what I would say properly for P2.
I think that happened to me. I genuinely think I was a victim of that because after I got my P1 result, my expectations went skyrocketed, and then even P2 when I was doing the past papers, everything was going great, and then I opened the paper while I was in the exam hall, and every smirk on my face just dropped. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, so you have to open yourself to a variety of questions. So like you said, some of the
I've humbled
questions,
myself this year.
yeah, past paper questions. But also, are you timing yourself when you do this paper? Are you sat there without any distractions? Is your phone away? Have you just got your paper, your calculator? Are you doing a mock on your own?
That's very important as well.
Yeah, when you're stuck, are you like if you're doing a paper where you're doing it, do you just go straight to the mark scheme, or do you stop
Recheck
and look in your notes in your book, or have a Google on a subject and try and figure it out instead of going straight to the mark scheme and saying, oh, that's how you do it. Because that is
The way I recommend people to do their past papers is that go ahead, time at the start. You don't necessarily have to time yourself. You can, do whatever question you're understanding as much time as you like. But then when you leave the question you don't understand, go ahead and search them on YouTube. But like when you're like a month away from your actual exams, you cannot be afford to spending a lot of time. You have to, like, let's say if the exam it's 90 minutes if I'm not wrong, 1 hour 30. So I think completing it in 70 minutes should be your ideal, so that you can go ahead and spend those 20 minutes in questions you left, or questions you didn't understand, or questions you think you made a mistake in. It's very important, especially in A levels, to leave time for stuff that you perhaps didn't understand. So it's very important to be efficient in your time.
Absolutely. And then going back to what you're saying, just to clarify that, when you're stuck on an exam question, the worst thing you can do is look at the mark scheme or a video of that specific question. That is the worst.
What's the reason behind this?
So when you're stuck on a question, the best thing you can do is go back to that topic and then see if you can figure it out from that.
Really? Okay, so I didn't know this because I made this exact mistake that you're mentioning right now. That if I didn't understand the question in like a couple of tries, I used to go on YouTube and search it up.
Yeah, so don't do that. Don't do that, because what you're
Is there a reason?
Yeah, because you're not giving yourself the accomplishment of figuring it out. So my best advice to you, so let's say you're doing a question and you've got the mark scheme, okay? Don't look at the working, just look at the answer. Let's say the answer's 4. Okay, so
now you have to work it out how to get 4.
How do you get to 4? That's what you need to do. Don't look at the how. If you start looking for the how on YouTube, if you start looking for the how, you're not learning. You're then saying, I get it, I didn't see that. What you need to do, let's say the topic
that's very interesting, because I did that so many times last year.
So this is a huge misconception. Don't do that. Go with the struggle. If the topic is chapter 2 functions and graphs, go have a look at the chapter 2 in the book, go to the specific topic and be like, right, it's asking me this, do some practice questions from the book, and then see if it ignites you. Figure out how to do it, and then that's how you get.
That's very interesting. Now I'm gonna apply this year.
100%. This is all my students who have got 100 UMS in P3 and P4 have used this method. Do not look at the
I'm gonna make sure to do this.
Yeah, look at the marks.
But what if it takes a lot of time to like figure it out, like ages? It's taking you ages and you still cannot get it. Then would you recommend watching something?
Watch videos around the topic, but not the specific question.
Got it. Makes sense, because then you're learning on your own.
You need to build up your resilience here, and then think about how happy you're going to be when you figured it out.
And the dopamine rush, as we were talking about.
Absolutely. And then the other thing to think of as well, I mean, obviously, like, you've spent half an hour on a 4-mark question and you don't get it, okay?
Yeah.
Right, you've done some research, okay. Don't give in to temptation. Leave it. Come back to it tomorrow. That is
with a fresh mind, with a completely new perspective.
Fresh mind, but that is where learning is going to happen the most.
Makes sense. No, that absolutely makes sense. And I've realized a huge mistake I was making last year, and I'm not going to repeat it this year.
Yeah, so it's what everyone does. Everyone goes straight to the past papers. That's how you do it. And they go, I get it now. No, you didn't get it. You saw somebody else do it.
The thing that happens is that you get it at that moment, but then when the next time you see a question like that, you're not going to be able to get it because you never actually learned it. You just saw how to do it, and then you moved on.
Yes, you've never actually learned how to problem solve. You haven't solved the problem. You've cheated by seeing how to do it. You haven't taken the time to explore, actually, okay, I don't understand how this modulus works. Right, well then clearly you've got a bit of foundational gap in your knowledge of functions. Go back to the functions chapter, do some more practice questions, do some different style exam questions, and then come back to it.
Interesting.
You will
That's very insightful.
Yes. Because it's the only reason you can't answer a question and you're getting stuck is because there's a few things, but the main two is, number one, you didn't fully understand the question. Number two, there is some gaps in your knowledge, so you can't fully answer the question. And number three, you're overcomplicating it.
That could be a case as well, that you're overcomplicating it. It's something much simpler, and then if you were to look at the answer, you would be like, oh, this is how it's done. But like, you have to figure that out on your own first.
Absolutely. And then if you leave it 24 hours and come back, you'd be like, oh, see it in a different pair of eyes and be like, oh, I know what I'm doing. And honestly, I can't tell you. It's just, that's where learning is going to happen.
Completely agree. Because when I used to do questions, like the long, 6-7 mark questions, I used to do them, and then I used to check in the marking scheme. Every time I got it right, there was a rush of happiness in myself. Like, I was like, yes, I did it. And then it's like that with every maths question that I do. Like, yes, I've done it. And then it's just different with maths for some reason. Like, I don't have the same reactions when it comes to physics or chemistry. For maths, it's just different.
It's that sense of accomplishment, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly.
And also, what
you've solved this problem.
Scheme is that sometimes there's more than one way to solve a question.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're stuck and then you look at the mark scheme and you look at their first way, okay, I've seen some questions in P4 with, like, on the mark scheme it says way 1, way 2, way 3, way 4, way 5. And there's 5 different routes you could have taken.
Different ways.
However, you look at the mark scheme, you look at way 1, and then you practice it in that way. But your brain might not work that way. You might not have automatically seen it.
You have to be open to all different ways to do it.
Absolutely. Your brain might be a slightly different way. So then you're never really going to understand how to do that question, because you're now learning a process instead of understanding what to do.
This is a very insightful conversation. And would you like to give one final word of advice and encouragement for year 13 students who are doing their last year, and one final advice for math students all over the world as well?
So, final piece of advice for year 13 is that there is so much pressure on you this year because you're getting to the end of the year. You just need to breathe is step 1, okay? And focus on healthy routines.
That's what I've done. I've made a whole schedule because my life has become so hectic now. I have a physics retake in October, November. I have my IELTS. I have so many different stuff going on with the YouTube, different podcasts, school. It's so hard to manage it. So I was like, let me make a calendar to organize my life so I can dedicate time to everything equally. And so far today I followed that calendar. So far it's been good.
Okay, and can I ask you a question with your calendar? Have you also put in time for fun, for relaxation, for yourself, for exercise?
No, not today. Today.
So you need
for gym. I've put one for gym, but
this is good. Exercise, and whether it's gym, swim, walking, running, and then put time for yourself. So what do you
self-care time?
Yeah, and it could be a hobby that you enjoy, or maybe you like, chatting to your friends. Allow your time that as well, or else what happens is...
The thing is, it's so like, my schedule is so packed because I have a retake, so I have to study for that. And my school's already started taking tests from next week for chemistry, so there's another pressure of that as well.
There is all these pressures. However, if you don't allow yourself that time to also have a bit of fun... then you're just
your well-being, your mental health will go down the drain.
Absolutely, and it's all going to get too much, and then you're just going to crash and burn. There needs to be.
So I agree. You have to take time for yourself as well.
You have to take time for yourself. So whatever you're into, like I really enjoy playing paddle.
What's that? Oh, is it a board game?
No, paddle. Have you seen it?
Oh no, I know it. I know it. Is it like squash? Squash?
It's like squash and tennis,
okay, got it.
But in the glass containers.
Yeah, I got it.
I make sure I go and do that.
I like playing football, so I have like each week me and my friends, we go out, we book a field, and we play football there. So
perfect. Make sure you keep that up. Sometimes
but right now the heat in Dubai is just way too much.
Yeah, but there are some indoor places you can play football.
Yeah.
You can book that or go really late and just think a bit of hot football. Make sure you keep
Yeah.
hydrated. Or, you know, like even sometimes I get really lost in books and I can't put them down. And it's like, you know, it's a guilty pleasure, isn't it?
So I've got a lot of books in the background as well. A lot, different books. Atomic Habits. I don't know if you know it.
Yeah.
Ego is the Enemy. A lot of different books for self-help and self-care. So I like reading them as well.
Yeah, so it's good. So for me, I enjoy reading self-help books, but I also enjoy
Yeah.
reading like the Harry Potter books, you know, and just getting
All
lost in
right.
a world of imagination.
Yeah.
For me, that's a guilty pleasure, and that's time for myself. So if, you know,
Yeah.
if that's also what you enjoy doing, schedule time for that. You know, schedule
That,
time for stuff
yeah,
that
so
you
you
love.
should have a healthy balance of your life. I have
Absolutely.
a video coming up on how to balance your work, like your studies and your life. So I think that video is going to be very important for students who are in their A levels to not take too much pressure on themselves. Study, be productive, study as much as you can, but also take time to enjoy.
Yeah, and make sure you put that on there. You know, you need to have time for
Yeah,
yourself, or else it is going to be too much.
100%.
And then advice for students all around the world is embrace the struggle. You know,
That's a very good quote.
fully embrace the struggle when you're stuck in a problem. Even actually, I don't know if you can see
What
um
are these?
these are blocks. So
All right.
there's this like there are loads of games with mathematics, and
Yeah.
basically essentially you'd have different patterns and then you'd put them
Mm.
together and then you'll end up making a square.
Different shapes and
Okay,
right.
so you'd have five of these and you have to make a square. It's problem solving.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
might not see it.
Puzzles as well. Puzzles are very good for problem solving as well.
Puzzles are so good for problem solving. It's just embrace the struggle. Embrace it. When you're stuck
Yeah.
on a problem, embrace that struggle. Don't give up on yourself. You know,
Amazing.
keep going, because there will be a time when the penny clicks. And
Yep.
also, don't keep doing the same thing. If you've tried it one way and it doesn't work, don't keep doing the same way
Yeah.
again and again and again.
There's many different ways you can solve a problem, so try all of them.
Absolutely, absolutely. And even approach a problem.
Anyways, yeah. Anyways, thank you, Miss Charlotte. This was one of the best conversations I've had, and a very productive and insightful conversation on maths and just productivity and helping students all around the world in general. So I really appreciate you for your time. Thank you so much for coming on.
And thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you reaching out, and I'm so glad that you found the videos helpful. And I wish you all the best in year 13.
And I'm gonna keep a lookout for your channel as well, and hope to see a lot of content coming there as well.
Yes, M1 will be on the way.
Yeah, hopefully before the exams happen. So I'll be looking forward to that as well. Thank
Yeah,
you for coming on again, and have a really good day.
thank you.